We do have several people calling in regarding the shots. 3 were heard. Victims.
Long Beach Fire Department paramedic.
Please come to Wilson High School. There's been a shooting.
We're on our way. You know who did the shooting.
So we just got shot at Wilson High School right now. We're right at the stoplight on Examino and at the stoplight. The victim is supposed to be at the stoplight at 10th and Examino.
The stadium had been packed with people watching Wilson play rival Long Beach Poly. After the game, Long Beach police say there was a confrontation between 2 groups. Melody was an innocent bystander.
It was October 30th, 2009. It was the night of Wilson High School's homecoming football game against crosstown rival Poly High School. As the game had ended and the students, the spectators were filing out of the stadium, there was a confrontation between 2 gang cliques here in Long Beach. Words were exchanged, and this young 16-year-old gang member took out a gun and fired shots at his gang rivals. A 3rd bullet missed him entirely and sailed into the crowd and hit a young girl, Melody Ross, who was sitting on the sidewalk or near the sidewalk waiting to be picked up by her parents. Melody Ross was not gang involved in any way, shape, or form. In fact, she was a high school honor student. She was a member of the track team. It was the first football game her parents had allowed her to attend because it was homecoming and it was the night before Halloween. Melody Ross wore a Supergirl costume the night that she died. That event sent waves through this community. And to the extent Long Beach might have tolerated the presence of gangs prior to that incident, I think the Melody Ross murder woke up a number of us. After my election in 2010, the first thing I did was hold a series of meetings with stakeholders from all over Long Beach. Of course, I met with police officers and command staff. I wanted to understand the law enforcement perspective, but I also met with school officials, with ministers and clergy and neighborhood leaders and nonprofit groups because I wanted to hear what they thought the city prosecutor's office could do. What we came up with was a 3-prong approach to the gang problem. First, suppression. We wanted to use technology and data to better utilize existing law enforcement resources. Second, in the area of intervention, we partnered with the school district and key nonprofits to identify at-risk youth to help keep them in school and out of gangs. Third, rehabilitation. We started looking for innovative ways to move people out of the criminal justice system. When gang members are ready to leave the gang life, prosecutors need to be there ready to help them. Working together, all 3 things can make a meaningful difference in Long Beach.
Doug Halbert and his team are involved in doing everything they can to provide proactive support services. I'm familiar with a little bit with the gang injunctions, but I think he's taken a step further to provide more interventions and support systems to decrease the recidivism of gangs going back into the system and going back into the neighborhood and doing the wrong thing.
With some of our gang challenges that we face in the city, he's been a true partner and an innovator when it comes to gang injunctions. We do it collectively, but some of his ideas, his passion, his innovations have really forwarded our gang injunction program for the city of Long Beach as what I believe to be one of the best in the nation.
We still have an obligation to keep the public safe. That's the police department's primary job. We are going to arrest gang members who commit crimes, but we also want to have the other pieces like Doug Halbert's put into place, the opt-out program, and provide some resources to these people that want to get out. Just his passion and activeness, I think, are just a breath of fresh air.
In 2010, we started a gang prevention strategy, which is really a more comprehensive and a strategic approach to what has been a long-term problem in Long Beach. We've had a problem with gangs for 3 generations now, and I thought that it was necessary to do things differently if we're going to try to make inroads in our gang problem. Everyone expects the city prosecutor's office and the police department to be actively engaged in gang suppression efforts. This is what you think of it, aggressive and robust officers on the field, arresting gang members as soon as they commit crimes, executing search warrants on gangs to catch them in the act of selling drugs or smuggling weapons. And we do that, we do it a little different and I think a little better than a lot of other prosecuting agencies. What we do differently in Long Beach is we've created a two-step process before anybody gets served with the court orders. A gang detective who's an expert and has been deemed an expert by the courts first has to review an individual and look at their prior criminal history. They look at their prior admissions of gang affiliation, what types of people they've associated with, and the crimes they've committed together in order to determine that that person is an active gang member. And then after the police detective looks at it, then I have a prosecutor in my office also review that person's criminal history before the person gets served with an injunction.
NBC4 News at Noon starts now with breaking news.
Long Beach's gang prevention program is in the spotlight in Washington, D.C. today. Long Beach officials briefed the Congressional Black Caucus about how their police officers are using a new technology to target gang members on the street. It's called Laserfiche, and it allows officers who enforce gang injunctions to quickly identify served gang members and the terms of their court orders.
This technology opens enforcement of our gang court orders to patrol officers who have helped keep crime down in Long Beach.
The prosecutor says after the injunction, changes were made in 2011. Gang-related murders dropped 52%.
Just for a minute on the suppression side, what we do differently in Long Beach is that we use technology to better enforce court orders. Courts for the last 20 years have issued court orders against the gangs here in Long Beach. And it's been up to a handful of gang detectives to enforce those orders. Using a local company here in Long Beach called Laserfiche, we've developed a program that essentially allows police officers in their units, in their police cars, to quickly run someone to see if they're subject to the court order, what the terms of the court order are, the area where the court order is in effect. And police officers can very quickly, using technology, effectuate an arrest.
This gives a clear definition for patrol officers in the field on how to identify where are gang locations and where court orders are enforceable for gang prevention, gang suppression.
As we're talking about the gang injunction specifically, Laserfiche is a company here in Long Beach that gave us a technical solution to a challenge we were having. And the challenge was that we had difficulties in connecting the dots between the court orders in court and the police officers working on the street. And the challenge was that the officers didn't know the information or the current information on some of the gang members that had been served with this injunction.
They had a system which really wasn't working for them. It was a central records filing system held in their headquarters, which the patrolman would have to phone in, and usually by the time the patrolman received the information back, the perpetrator would be long gone.
The new system is all electronic and there's data housed in different systems. Basically what we did is tie those systems together to give the end user a single product that they can access out in the field.
The intervention prong of our strategy is actually somewhat unique. We are working with the school district and the police department to identify at-risk youth as early as 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. We identify them because they're missing at least 10%, sometimes as much as 20, 30, 40% of school. According to the California Department of Education, truancy is the #1 indicator of juvenile delinquency behavior. We know that 75% of all chronic truants will drop out and not finish school. We know that the state prisons are full of students who did not finish. I've seen statistics between 75 and 80% of those in state prison are school dropouts. According to the National Center for Children in Poverty, children who miss 10% or more of a school year are more likely to suffer lower academic performance in subsequent school years. And another report by Fight Crime Investing Kids says that increasing graduation rates by 10 percentage points could decrease rates of violent crime by 20% and prevent 500 murders and more than 20,000 aggravated assaults each year in California. Working with the school district and the police department, we've created, I think, an innovative truancy program to identify these kids and get them back into school as quickly as possible. We know that gangs are recruiting kids that are not in school on a regular basis, and it makes sense. These are the kids that are not going to finish school. They're not even going to finish middle school in many cases if someone doesn't intervene at the earliest levels. I think holding the parents accountable and making sure that they know that they're responsible for their child's regular attendance, not the teachers, not the school administrators, the parents are responsible for regular attendance. By sending that message in a way that is effective, we can increase attendance, we can reduce truancy involvement at the earliest stages. There was also a new statute, Penal Code Section 270.1, that defined a chronic truant as a student in grades K through 8 who's missed 10% or more of the school year without an excuse. And again, the focus is on the parents of the chronic truant. And the focus is on the most truant, not those that are missing some school, but those who have missed a lot of school already during the school year.
You know, you don't turn 18 and become a bad actor. That you started at a certain age, whether that be elementary, middle, or high school, or maybe you're born into a life of gang activity. So that it starts in schools, and one thing we're familiar with at Beach High School and in the community is doing everything we can to support students who may have been identified with gang issues, and do everything you can to have them see a different life and a different way to do things to accomplish their goals.
Just a few examples. Juan was a 7th grader referred to us who went from a 16.7% of missed classes to 4.7. Raymond was an 8th grader who went from 18.6 to 3.8. And Frank was an 8th grader who went from 10.5 to 6%. Excuse me, 0.6%. And we've been following Frank since his 8th grade year. He's now doing very well. He's at Beach High School, but he has great attendance. He received the Student of the Quarter award last quarter from his principal. I don't think he was on a course to graduate. Statistically, in 8th grade, he was in a demographic, 75% of which will not graduate from school.
I had very bad attendance, and so I was getting into trouble, and I had to go through him with my dad. I met with him a few times. He helped me get into this school, which helped me mainly to improve what I was doing over at my old high school and what I was getting in trouble with.
In the first year of the Parent Accountability and Chronic Truancy Program, we saw in the group that was sent to us, on average, the students had missed 20.3% of classes prior to that office conference. After the office conference, the truancy dropped to about 6% of their classes. Fortunately, it's not 0% missed, it's only 6% missed. But that's a dramatic turnaround, and if you notice, 6% is below that 10% threshold for a child being a chronic truant. Majority of our students see dramatic improvement, as much as 50% reduction. But the PACT program and working with the school district, we're able to eliminate any of the problems. Whatever the hurdles are, our job is to remove the hurdles in order to get the students in school every single day.
It's really not enough for us to have programs in place in the district and then have kids not taking advantage of those programs. It's really not enough for us to send out messages to our kids about how important it is for them to be academically oriented without getting support from people in the community.
Working with the school district, we've created what I think is an innovative program, and we've seen a reduction in chronic truancy in some of our schools that has been better than anything we've seen in the past. Why do I focus so much on this? Why is this a program that means a lot to me as a city prosecutor who handles about 14,000 cases a year? The reason is, in Long Beach, we have traditionally had problems in some of our neighborhoods with gangs. We know it's historical and it's generational in many cases. We are trying to break that cycle, and by focusing on these students, we know that 80% of gang-involved, gang-active children or gang-active people are school dropouts. They've dropped out of school. They're not going to go back to school unless something dramatic returns them back to the school. We know what kind of activity they're going to be involved in if they become a member of a gang, if they join a gang because they're not in school. We know that they're going to be involved in drug dealing and crimes of violence. So this is extremely critical to me as a prosecutor who prosecutes very violent and serious crimes and serious criminals, but I don't get them until they're 18. That's why we have to go back to when they're in 6th grade, when they're in 7th grade, when they're in 8th grade, and make sure that they're regularly attending, because that number, 80% of active gang members or school dropouts, tells me that we can starve the gangs of new recruits if we keep these kids in school. We make it harder for gangs to recruit new members if we keep these kids in school every single day. Gangs are recruiting kids as young as 12 years of age here in Long Beach and in Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County has more gang members than any other county in America, so we have a problem that we need to address here with a laser-like focus. And I'm proud of what my office is doing, because we believe the at-risk kids attending school every single day is the single most effective anti-gang strategy we could be involved in. The third prong of our gang prevention strategy is what we call the rehabilitation prong. And a key component of that is our opt-out program. I mentioned that for the last 20 years, Long Beach has been very aggressive at serving members of gangs with the court orders and enforcing those orders. But for the last 20 years, we have not been aggressive at rewarding people who leave the gang or assisting them in leaving the gang. And what we found is that there are a number of people who have grown out of the gang life. Of course, many people end up in prison for life or dead on the streets, but those that get out of the gang and actually make it out, we've never offered them anything. We've never offered them assistance of any kind. So we've created in this third prong, the rehabilitation prong, an opt-out program. Once someone's been served with the court order, it's a permanent order. But we can remove someone from that order if they do 4 things. The first is that they have to come forward with 2 community sponsors, someone of upstanding reputation in the community who will say that this person is sincere, they've left the gang, they are no longer involved in the gang life. Those community sponsors vouch for the person, and they confirm to us that there's someone else that's going to actually stand by them and say that this person is no longer a gang member. The second thing is they have to be working full-time or going to school full-time. And we'll help them. If they want to get back into school, we've got resources to help them with tuition. There are nonprofits that will help them get jobs, and we help to place them with these nonprofits so we can assist them in going to school or working full-time.
What we're going to do is we're going to set them up with Conservation Corps. I have Tracy here with me. Tracy's going to do an initial intake where she meets with you guys and just is able to get all the information, make sure you guys are all good and what you want to do. We're going to work on getting Roy off the court order and showing that, you know, he's on the right path. I want to help him on education and employment. Those are the 2 big ones for me.
The third thing is they have to perform some level of community service. The reason we require that is when you join a gang, you take something from the community. You've actually taken something from your neighborhood. By performing some community service, you're giving back to the neighborhood. You're also earning your way off of a court order, off of an injunction. The fourth thing is they have to sign a disaffiliation agreement in front of their community sponsors. And it's a very emotional ceremony because at these opt-out signing ceremonies, often the community sponsor will turn to the person and say, I've known you for 20 years, I've known the difficult times you've gone through, and you've gone through those times and come out a better man, and I'm so proud of you.
The thing I love about Prosecutor Halbert's approach is that he left room for those who want to change their life. If you can show that you're enrolled in school, doing something productive, you're no longer affiliated with the gang you were once affiliated with, and that you have, you know, a local community sponsor who is really vested, you have an opportunity to get off of the gang injunction and to start a new life. And that's the beauty of this program.
We've had some great success stories with our opt-out programs. We've had people who were very involved in gangs at one time in their life, but they've grown out of it. And I think it's our duty as prosecutors to encourage it, to incentivize it, and to reward people who actually leave a gang and to have them removed from a court order or a gang injunction that affects them. An example of someone who has participated in our opt-out program is Jose Osuna. He was an active gang member here in Long Beach. He was involved in a number of criminal activities when he was younger. He went to state prison for a long period of time. He paid his debt to society. He did his time in state prison. He also did what he describes as giving the ultimate sacrifice to his gang.
Some men came looking for me at my house. I wasn't there. They found my 17-year-old son instead. They proceeded to kill him, so he was murdered in front of my house. That happened in August of 2007.
He's a very inspirational person because of what he's come through and where he is today. And I respect that. I respect who he is as a person. And our office, I think, and prosecutors across the country need to incentivize and reward people who have left the gang life by removing them from the injunctions or the court orders that they've been subject to. Once someone has earned their way off of the injunction, prosecutors need to meet them halfway and help them get on with their lives.
The Long Beach City Prosecutors opt-out program, for me, what it means is it's an opportunity, first of all, remove that barrier to a lot of opportunities for a guy like me, both around employment, travel. But it also, for me, is something very personal, is a way that I can officially say, I'm done with this lifestyle. I renounce my ties to the gang life. I renounce my ties to this particular gang. For me, it was just an opportunity to say that in a very official way. And for me, it's part of a healing process, personally. It allows me to say, personally, I'm not affiliated with the gang life anymore. And the city of Long Beach has given me the opportunity to also say that through official documentation. And because I have to do certain things to opt out, to complete the process, because I was required to do certain things, I think it holds me accountable. It holds those individuals accountable that want to opt out. It shows a real, genuine desire to leave the lifestyle.
Tracy is our multi-gang strategy coordinator, and she's really the heart and soul of this program. She's the one that really brings the lifeblood to it, because she is from the community and really connects with the community. Gang members aren't afraid of me, they're afraid of Tracy. They don't want to disappoint her, to tell you the truth. And she has a way of really connecting and making people follow through with what they say they're going to do. And she's very organized, and that's what's needed in a program like this. That attention to detail that Tracy brings, as well as the passion.
Well, when you're trying to help somebody and you see that they're really sincere, then we go that extra mile. But when you have a person that's really, need the help or need some assistance, I take pride in it, and I try to help them out as much as I can. If you really want it, you have to put the work in too. You have to be willing to do the things that this office asks of you.
As a former gang member, I found every opportunity that I could to hang around on a corner, terrorize the community that I lived in with other gang members. And so nobody was there to stop me until there was a gang injunction in place from just loitering and doing that. I'm a community member, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I definitely want to live in a safe community. I don't want gang members hanging around on the corner of the block where I live at. I don't want my mom or my children or my granddaughter or my dad to be afraid to walk out the front door and walk down to the corner store or get in their vehicle, anything like that. I definitely want them to be safe. I think that gang injunctions, if used properly, do serve a purpose.
My office, over a year ago, was recognized with a national award. Our gang prevention strategy was recognized as one of the best programs, neighborhood programs in America. And again, our focus is not solely at prosecuting gang members. Our focus is on preventing them, if that's at all possible.